it's Ailie. I'm going to challenge myself today to try and do a kind of a long COVID 101 episode where I help you to understand what it feels like in your body to live day to day with long COVID, specifically the ME, CFS and POTS type that I have. You're very welcome back. I'm going to try and go at lightning speed through this, starting with ME, CFS, moving on to POTS. Here we go. ME, CFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis. The way I describe this to people a lot, and also the way that I try and keep the information in my own head, is to think of it like there are four main pillars to consider. The first one, number one, is that you can't generate energy in anything like the way that you used to. So real trouble making energy from the food you eat, the air you breathe. For me personally, I always think of it like I woke up one day and my capacity to make energy, generate energy, went from 100% slick, fucking brilliant, down to an average of 30. So it's a bit like driving a car where you can now only fill the petrol tank up to 30%. Might vary a little bit from day to day, but benchmark as someone in the mild, moderate ME category, 30%. Second thing about ME/CFS is that your energy also drains a lot more quickly. So that 30% petrol fill we just did, it's going to be used up a lot more quickly now. So you could think of it like as if there is a hole in the tank, a leak. Okay, so that's the second thing. The third aspect is that it also takes disproportionately long to recharge. So it takes an awfully long time to gain back, to recover any energy after expenditure. And remember that expenditure can be of any sort: physical, mental, emotional, social. Your energy bank is an equal opportunities employer. And again, if you were to go with the petrol tank analogy, it's like if every time you wanted to refill the tank, you had to stand at the petrol station for 3 days or something. And at the end of that 3 days, it only brings it back to the 30% in my case. People who are on the more severe end of the spectrum, that might just be 2%, 5%, if even. So very depressing stuff, but we're nearly there, so hold tight. So those three things. And then the fourth part of it is when you go below zero. So when you overspend, what happens is you go into a state called PEM. I'm going to actually just give you a real life example of what this overspend might look like for me. And this is a physical exertion example. So let's say I have to go up to the chemist to collect my prescription. There's a chemist. It's about a 3-minute walk. It's probably not even a 3-minute walk, actually. Very close by, very handy. But let's say I have to go up there for my prescription, but they don't have it ready yet. So I go home and then go up again later in the day. That second trip would be unforeseen, and that might be enough to overdraw on the available energy. And while I may or may not know that at the time, if I've overspent, then it means my body has had to draw on emergency reserves, and there's a payback for that. Sometimes you don't actually know this. You mightn't even know it until the next day or even the day after. But if there is a payback, that means you go into a state of PEM, post-exertional malaise, post-exertional neuroimmune exhaustion. The best way I think to think of this, and many people talk about it like this, is PEM is a state that your body goes into following an overspend of energy in which it feels like you've been poisoned. So just going back to the car analogy, let's say after a certain point of travel, you run out of petrol, and it takes a little stretch here of the imagination, but let's say after a certain point, the exhaust fumes begin to fill up the car. So the exhaust pipe turns inwards. And while you might notice that straight away, the fumes will over time build and slowly begin to poison you. It's such a weird state, the PEM state, but that analogy feels so apt and so real that it does raise the question of what is the equivalent of the exhaust fumes being turned against the self within our bodies. And I think there is actually some research being done on this at the moment about what's happening in the muscles after they've had to overexert and pull on that emergency energy. So that's really positive. But as a general rule, you'll find that very few people know what PEM is. Regular people, but also practitioners, medical professionals, therapists, physios. There's just very little awareness of it, and it's so particular to ME/CFS. So if you can get your head around those 4 pillars of ME/CFS, and maybe especially the PEM one, you're doing a really, really bloody good job of understanding the condition. I'm talking gold star, A+. So to quickly recap, pillar number 1, can't produce energy well, Number 2, energy drains really quickly. Number 3, takes a lifetime to recharge. And number 4, PEM. Okay, over to the POTS side of things now. Let's go. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, a form of dysautonomia, dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system, a system that you never knew. So POTS. POTS is one of those things that's very, very obvious when you have it, I feel like. I mean, maybe it does have to be at a certain level of severity, but in my experience, it's just really flipping obvious that there's something wrong here that I have never felt before. It's like moving to a planet where the force of gravity is much, much greater. So every time you stand up or you go from lying to sitting, every time there's some attempt at verticality, the pull of gravity is so overwhelming that it makes you very ill and brings you steadily to the verge of blacking out. I remember actually watching this video of Brian Cox, the physicist, and he was part of this simulation where he would travel, in inverted commas, to other planets and feel what it was like to experience gravity on those planets. I'll link it in the comments below actually. But I think he went up to 5 Gs in total, and it showed his face and his body's response to it. And while I was looking at him, I was thinking to myself, whoa, that really looks like how POTS feels. You know, there's this really intense downward pull. You could see it on his face. It's that sense of my vision is now beginning to blur. The blood is all being pulled downwards. I think I'm going to pass out. And then your body really desperately tries to respond to it, and it makes your heart rate go really fast to compensate for it. And whatever your blood pressure is doing, I'm not sure. But your system is basically trying to restabilize itself and get that blood back up to the top part of your body, your brain. But what's happening is you're moving ever closer to the point where you're going to faint all the time. I think a lot of people will have the experience of standing up too quickly and you start to feel a bit faint, and then you get down on the ground, and after a couple of seconds, usually your body will have restabilized, and then you can get up again and get on with your day. It's a similar mechanism, I'm guessing, but the difference with POTS is that I'm actually fine when I stand up first. Generally, it's the longer that you're standing, the higher that heart rate is going, the closer you're coming to that feeling like, oh God, this is not going to end well. And just one more thing before we jump back into the analogy. When you're beginning to feel that pre-syncope state, and that for me happens, like it happens after a few seconds, I can sometimes last a few minutes before I'll have to get down on the ground by using tips and tricks like shifting my weight from one leg to the other to try and get the blood at least pumping a bit better up to the top part of my body. Or if I'm walking for the same reason, it can delay the pre-syncope kind of process. But generally speaking, it kicks in very quickly, right? And then when you get down on the ground, the thing is that it only really stops the previous fainting spell. So when I get back up, I'm back into the trouble that I was just in, you know? Once you're upright, the cycle just begins again and again and again. So it makes it very hard to be mobile at all, especially without some sort of mobility aid, you know? Okay, so final furlong, we're nearly there. You're doing really well. Let's get back into the car and incorporate the POTS. So probably the key thing here is the slower your car is going, the more problematic it is from a POTS perspective. So the slower the speed, the heavier the gravitational force, the closer you come to passing out as a driver. Yeah, I think that's the best way to think about it. I'm kind of working this out as I'm speaking. So the slower you're going, the more you're losing consciousness. God, it sounds terrifying when you put it like that. But that is what it's like. The more you slow down and the longer you're stood still, the harder it is to keep a hold of what's going on in front of you, the wheel, the road, the other drivers, your own faculties. God, that's so stressful, isn't it? But it does get at the urgency of this feeling of, okay, once I leave the house, I have to keep moving. But I've only got a small bit of petrol and there's also a leak in the tank. But if I don't keep moving, then I'm going to stall. And if I stall, I'm going to start to lose consciousness. I'm just thinking, is there any other option? Possibly if you make a plan in advance in the car that, say, every 100 meters or so, I'm going to pull in and park for 10 minutes. And then after the 10 minutes, I'm going to do another 100 meters and then pull in and park for 10 minutes. I'm thinking the parking could be the equivalent of lying down with your legs up against a wall to try to regulate the blood flow. But that's so impractical when you're out and about in the real world. Can you imagine it? So it leaves you with very few options. But I think these kinds of analogies are useful because you can probably feel the stress of that in yourself, just at the thought of this being your car. And even if your car was the only part of your life that this affected, you could see that it would affect it hugely, you know? And then understanding that that car is your body, so it never goes away. You can't really park it. It's always with you, you know? I think these analogies give a sense of that. At least I hope they do. Not because I want you to feel the distress, but in an ideal world, I would really like for people to know that these conditions are out there and they can happen. And the sooner you know what's going on, the better you can look after yourself. And the more awareness there is, the better for everyone involved. You might need to take my word on that, but please do. I'll be back soon. Thank you so much for listening. Mind yourself. Till the next time. And I hope you enjoyed that little trip to space in the middle. I knew there was method to the astronaut madness.